welcome back to another episode of MOONIELICIOUS. This is Michelle from Heart Panorama.
And I'm Luna TK.
And today's topic are the secret identities in Sailor Moon. Alongside Sailor Moon, we're also mentioning other brands, products, or services. Any form of product placement in this podcast solely serves discussion purposes and is not paid or sponsored in any way. If you aren't familiar with Sailor Moon, please be aware that this podcast may contain spoilers. We recommend you to watch or read the series before listening to our podcast. So today we're talking about the secret identities in Sailor Moon, as mentioned, and our first question regarding that topic is, why do the characters in Sailor Moon actually have secret identities? What do you think?
Okay, so it's interesting because lately, especially like in shows nowadays, like for example in Miraculous, the whole topic of secret identities is very different, I think, depending upon what series you're in. I think in this case, in Sailor Moon, they have secret identities, because they don't care about the secret identities towards each other. Like, they can know each other's secret identities. So in Sailor Moon, it seems like it's more of a safety mechanism to protect each other's, like, families and stuff, because a lot of the times the villains in Sailor Moon tend to try and like harm the people that are like closer to the Senshi. I feel like in this case, especially like in the first season when they're looking for the princess, like they're trying to find the princess, I feel like if they knew that Sailor Moon, for one thing, was the princess, and then they knew like that she was Usagi, then they would immediately like take her family hostage and be like, okay, like give up the crystal now or else we're gonna like kill your family and everything you love. Like, that would be no good. But I don't know. I think that's pretty standard for like most superheroes, but I think in this case for the Senshi to know, I think it's more of a question of, in this case, a question of why do they know each other's identities? Like, why does the team know each other? Because I think in this case, they have to know each other's secret identities in order to... They have a lot of times where they get together and they game plan just as their normal selves. Mm-hmm. Like, whether they go to the arcade or whether they go to that little, like, cafe, or in the live action they go to the karaoke thing, they can pretend like it's just like, oh, we're getting together and do homework or whatever, but they obviously are there to, like, game plan what they're going to do against the enemy, you know? But what about you?
Now that you say that, why do they actually know each other's identities? I think it's actually kind of normal to know what is normal, but it's kind of usual in shows like these that the members of the team know each other's identities. For example, I'm currently watching Arrow with my mom, and when I think of that, they also know each other's identities behind the masks. And it's kind of only in Miraculous, or it's most present in Miraculous, that the team members, so to say, don't know all of each other's identities. Like, Ladybug doesn't know who Cat Noir is, and Cat Noir doesn't know who Ladybug is. But in other series, for example, Arrow and The Flash and Supergirl, they all know who the other person is. And it's kind of weird to think about why wouldn't the Sailor Senshi not know who the other Senshi are?
Yeah.
But still, in the beginning, I think, it wasn't so clear who they were, right? Like, they just had to discover they were Sailor Senshis themselves. But, you know, it's actually hard to...
I get what you're saying. Like, you're...
I lost my train of thought somehow, but but I'm only thinking, like, I agree with you that they don't tell the whole world who they are because they have to protect their families and their friends who are not Sailor Senshis, just like in other superhero shows. But I can't really remember that Sailor Moon ever hid her identity from the other Sailor Senshi, but she hid it from Tuxedo Mask, for example, because she wasn't sure if he could be trusted, or at least her team members or Luna or anyone said that they weren't sure if they can trust him, and that's why they hid their identities in front of him.
That's true.
From him.
That's true. I mean, when you think about it, it's mostly like that. The inner senshi all know each other's identities, but let's think about the outers. For a while, there was the whole, like, you know, they were thinking, like, the whole question of, like, well, who are these, like, you actually brought up a good point when it comes to the whole, like, mistrust thing, because in the beginning with them, they didn't know each other's secret identities, and they didn't trust them. But I wonder, it's kind of the whole question of, like, the chicken before the egg thing, you know, what came first? So it's a question of, did they not share each other's identities because they didn't trust each other, or they didn't trust each other because they didn't share each other's identities? You know what I mean? So it's one of those things where it actually, yeah, I mean, that's a really good question. Like, I mean, the outer senshi were being, they, at the same token, though, they were kind of being really suspicious. So, like, because I think in like Crystal / like the manga and like the original anime, they were definitely more suspicious, I think, in the original anime. Because, like, they would be like, oh, hey, here's the heart crystal. We may have to keep this. Be like, no, that's like, that keeps that person, like, alive. Like, you can't do that. So I think almost maybe in different, like, maybe in each version, it's like, for maybe different reasons. Like, maybe I think if I were, like, in Sailor Moon's shoes, like, I wouldn't share my identity necessarily with the outer senshi because I don't trust them, because they're taking, like, the heart crystals and all that stuff. But I think in Crystal / like the manga, I don't trust them because I don't know who they are and I don't have any idea of, like, what their purpose is and all that stuff. Does that make sense?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure if it was Crystal, but I think when the outer senshi appeared there, for example, Neptune and Uranus, I think they did know that Sailor Moon was the Moon Princess, but they still didn't trust her. So I'm not sure if I'm mistaken, but I think there was a scene in Crystal where Uranus and Neptune knew that Sailor Moon was the Moon Princess, but
I think you're right.
Somehow still didn't trust her, but I'm not sure if that's correct.
Well, I think by the way, guys, I'm getting the world's most ugliest bathroom, like, renovated, and I did not know that they were going to be doing work on the day that we were going to be recording, but we can't really postpone this recording anymore, so you're going to just hear some renovations and some hammering and some saws and stuff. It's okay. Nobody's hurt. We're good.
And just
anyways,
and just so it doesn't get boring, some traffic noise from here as well.
Yep, just to kind of switch it up a little bit, just a little bit,
just to make it,
yeah,
just to make it more natural.
Yep, this is our lives. We're recording this as everyday life is going on. You know, we're just everyday girls doing our thing. So, I think it was more like the inner senshi didn't trust the outer senshi in, like, Crystal. Like, the outer senshi knew, like, as a crew, you know, because the inner senshi didn't know, like, who they were. But, like, the outer senshi, like, I feel like it wasn't that they didn't trust the inners. It was just, like, they were like, we got this. Like, we can do this on our own. Like, it was, I think it was less of a trust thing and more of, like, I don't know. Because if you
maybe,
because if you don't...
Yeah. Sorry. I was just thinking, maybe it wasn't that they didn't trust the inners, or they not necessarily be like, we can handle this by ourselves, but also maybe they thought they're too weak to take care of this, so we're in charge now. But I think it depends on the versions.
Well, to be completely honest, I think if they think that the other party is weak or that they can't do the job, then do they actually really trust them? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Because if they think that they're weak, then they don't trust them to do the job right. So maybe it is a trust thing.
Yeah.
But in different ways. Like, and I think the outer senshi are not trusting the inner senshi to be strong enough to be able to handle the job. The inner senshi are not trusting the outer senshi because their outer senshi are being kind of sketch and, like, aren't trusting them. You know, I think the whole identity thing comes down to trust. Like, knowing each other's identities comes down to trust.
Yeah,
because
that's true.
Even in, like, the Star season, like, it took a while for them to find out, like, who the outer, like, because, I mean, even in the Star season, yeah, like...
Who the three lights were.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, even in, like, the Star season, it took a while for them to figure out who the three lights were, and that they were the starlights. And that was a whole nother, like, I think another trust thing, because, like, the Outers definitely did not trust the... Sorry, I'm gonna laugh every time.
The Outers always have trust issues, so...
Yeah, that's true. That's true. They always have trust issues.
Didn't they have trust issues with Tuxedo Mask as well?
The Inners
in the beginning,
didn't trust Tuxedo Mask. Yeah. The Inners didn't trust him. Yeah, I think a lot of it comes down to, like, trust. And, like, I think they have... The whole secret identity thing comes to play, like, when they... Like, if it's somebody that they actually really, really trust, and, or, like, don't, you know, because, I don't know if you ever noticed, a little off base, but, like, Naru, it's almost seemed, like, towards the end, like, she, like, vanished, like, after, like, I don't even know, like, when, like, just all of a sudden just gone, like, you don't see her ever again at one point, but towards the end, it almost seemed like she had an idea. Never actually said anything, but was kind of just like, hey, you know, it's like, you're, like, distant, like, be safe, you know, that kind of thing. And, like, they, like, parted ways, so it almost, like, yeah, it's like, it was, like, really, really subtle. I don't even remember when that was, but I just remember, like, that was, like, the last time you see Naru. And, like, I wonder, like, I really wonder, like, if that would have, like, I would have wanted to see more of that, to be honest. Like, I would have loved to have seen, like, what would happen, for example, if Naru knew who Usagi really was. You know? Like, I wonder how that would affect their friendship. I wonder if she stayed around, like, in the friend group. Like, if she knew the truth, you know? And I think, like, when it comes to trust, like, there's also communication. Like, if you trust them, and, like, if you're communicating with them and you're trusting them, then you're going to have a stronger relationship with them, which is why I think, like, Naru slowly kind of faded into the background, because she just was not part of that whole world, you know? Because she didn't know Usagi's identity. So there's, like, this part where it's, like, there's that disconnect, you know?
Yeah, but I think maybe she would also be more in danger if she knew who Usagi was.
True.
So maybe she would have been attacked more or held hostage or something.
True. I mean, she already was, like, the number one yo-bait, but, you know. I mean, how many times does that girl get kidnapped?
She even... Spoiler alert, but she even had an affair with one of the... what was... what are they called? With one of the four generals in the original one. And I thought,
she had, like,
that face was so awkward.
It was.
Like, I mean, like a high school girl, and... How old was he? I have no idea.
I have no idea. I'm gonna assume he would be around the same age as Mama.
It's so weird, though.
It is weird. It is weird. But, like, because she had, like, the little fling with him. I'm gonna guess that, like, the generals, like, or the she tend to, like, had, like, a similar age to, like, Mamoru, because he. That was his team. Like, those were, like, his, like, generals. So right. So I feel like if the generals are to Endymion as the Senshi are to Serenity, then that means that they're probably all the same age. Like, or they're all the same age as him. Like, I think he's a little Usagi, so they're probably all slightly older. But you know what I mean.
Yeah, but I think in the manga or in some art book they had an actual age. Like every Shitano had their actual age set.
Oh, really? Oh, now I really want to know what their age is.
I did some research on it when I wanted to start to write a fan fiction, but never got to it. But I think they actually had, like, ages between, I don't know, 17 and 26 or so. And I think Kunsai was the oldest.
That makes sense.
I think the others were, like, between 17 and 19, so... Yeah, it's still okay, I think. It's just, they look so old in the series, and then it's kind of weird to see them together. So
That's true. That's true.
it's kind of off topic, but yeah, we
Yeah.
drifted a bit.
Yeah. Well, I wonder, like, it makes me wonder, like, what it would have been like if I think it's, the reason why is because in Crystal and in, like, the manga, well, more so in Crystal, like, they confirmed that they had a relationship with the Senshi, which, like, when you actually think about what that would be like if they were, like, normal people, right? And they weren't just, like, bad guys, like, but who are also from the past. Well, to kind of bring it back in a little bit, I think the reason why we kind of went off on a tangent a little bit, to keep it on topic, I think the reason why we thought about all that is because you kind of start thinking about, like, the relationship that they had with the Senshi, and if they were in a relationship with them, and if they were in a relationship with them, that means that they would have, like, a regular civilian identity. But what would those civilian identities be like? You know, like, how old are they actually? Like, is it actually an appropriate relationship to have? Are they the same age? Are they high schoolers? Are they college students? So it's like, it actually makes you think about that. And I really wish that in Crystal they didn't just, like, kill them off. Like, if you were going to do that, like, bring them back. Like, bring them back and just, like, make them turn into background characters, like how they did with the Spectre sisters in the original anime, you know? Like, they became, like, they turned good and all that stuff. And, that, like, just do something like that, like, if you're going to do that. But, I don't know. So
Fate had a different plan.
But they had a different plan. They're like, oh, hey, you're going to, like, we're going to stray from the manga a little bit, but not too much. We're going to kill them. But I wonder if I kind of really hope that once they finish Crystal, maybe we'll get a little bit, like, something at the end for that. Like, I would love to see that, like, even if it's just, like, a cameo, you know what I mean? Because in the manga, Sagi and Mamoru get married at the end. Like, what if we just saw the generals in the crowd? Can you imagine how amazing that would be?
Oh my god, I would freak out.
I would cry. Like, they needed, like, I feel like they should do something like that. Like, if they're gonna go ahead and do all that, then they need to do this whole, like, okay, rebirth thing, like, and then, like, have them be there in the crowd. Because if everybody else got a reincarnation, you know what I mean? Like, why the heck wouldn't the rest, like, if all the Senshi got reincarnated, why the heck wouldn't the generals? And, you know?
Wasn't there a scene in the manga where Mamoru talked to the gems and then the ghosts of them came out, or their spirits?
Yeah.
And he actually talked to them? But I can't remember if they did that in Crystal as well. Did they?
They did not. I don't think they did. Or did they? I don't think they've done that in Crystal yet. No. They have not. They have not done that in Crystal yet. I think it might happen in season 4. A lot happens in season 4, like, so much of, like, well, it's not a season yet. It's supposed to be. We're waiting on those movies next year. But I think that happens in the 4th story arc. A lot of stuff starts coming back. So I'm going to be interested to see, like, hopefully they'll have that, and maybe because if you're going to go through all the work of bringing them in, like, I'd like to see them in almost like them have their own, like, identity outside of just being the generals, you know? Yeah. But yeah, so
I mean, they don't have to adapt the manga, like, page by page. They can still change a few bits here and there, and I think it would be interesting to bring them back and have them have their own civil identity.
Yeah, like, that's
to bring this whole discussion back to identities.
Yeah, because I want to see how they interact, you know? Like, I don't know, like, that's just, I think that's where I'm thinking about it when it comes to the whole identity thing, because we never got to see more of that. So if they were going to, like, go through the whole hassle, hey, like, they didn't actually die when the Senshi attacked them, because they're going to bring them back and be like, have a thing of that they were lovers in the past life and all that stuff, then they should have, like, done something so that afterwards, like, we kind of still got to see them in the background. Like, they don't have to something that wouldn't completely change the entire story, just something that, you know, they get sent off, they get to have their own civilian identities, and they kind of move on from there, and then maybe at the end, you know, we get to see them paired off with all the Senshi. Like, come on. Like, I would have loved to, like, see what that would have looked like, but that's okay. So, yeah.
So, talking about the different identities or the secret identities, the next question comes up, and that is, when did the characters reveal their identities to each other, and how or why? Or how and why? So the whole package is the question.
Okay, so I mean, the inner senshi, we know right off the bat who each of them are, basically. I mean, I think in Sailor Moon, they learn each other's identities when it's necessary for each other's identities. And I think in the first part of it, from Mercury to Jupiter, it was like necessary for them to kind of know right off the bat like who each other were, because they needed to find everybody else. You know, but like even then it wasn't until the moment was like really dire that they were like, oh hey, I got powers, like I'm Jupiter. Like, you know.
But didn't they find out during the first battle of each senshi? Like,
yeah.
They saw that person and all of a sudden they developed their powers or showed their powers, and then Luna threw the transformation pen and then they transformed. And they automatically knew each other's identities. But with Venus, it was a bit different because she came to the team and she already knew she was a senshi and she already had her powers and knew how to work with them. And I can't really remember how it happened in the original anime, but in Crystal, for example, she didn't... No, wait. She did reveal her identity, right?
She did, but like it's one of those things where we didn't know who Sailor, like in both versions, we didn't know who Sailor V was until like the moment was dire, you know what I mean? Like everybody was in trouble and like she had to step in at that point. And you could argue that it would be it's definitely more like that with Venus particularly, but I mean technically it wasn't until like, oh my gosh, like something's gonna happen to Sailor Moon if like I don't do something, like for example with Ami, like, you know, like Usagi's about to get hurt and like she screams out like no, and then like her powers start showing. So like it wasn't until like it was the right time and like it was like a desperate moment, you know. So it makes me wonder like if that desperate moment didn't happen, like would they have even awakened their powers, you know? But Venus, I feel like she was kind of watching from afar and like kind of doing her own side missions, I guess, until like I don't even know. Like we know she was like doing some of her own stuff before Sailor Moon awakened and all stuff, and then like she went to Europe or something. But then like what were you doing for like like what after Sailor Moon like happened? Like what were you doing? Like hey, just gonna talk to you through a video game, like and like what? But, why don't you just go help her?
But speaking of Venus, it comes to mind that in Sailor Moon, the secret identities aren't so simple. Like, you don't have your civil identity and your superhero identity, but you also have your other identity from the past. For example, when Venus didn't say she wasn't the Moon Princess, like everyone just assumed she was the Moon Princess. And that was like the other secret identity. For example, everyone thought she was the princess, but actually it was Sailor Moon and nobody knew.
Yeah,
so,
and then...
I only just realized that it's more complicated in Sailor Moon and in comparison to other series or movies.
Yeah. And then you find out in the fourth arc that they're all princesses on their own respective planets. And you're like, okay, so you got like 4 different identities. You got your past self, like your past like Sailor Scout self, your past princess self, your past like your current like civilian self, and your current like senshi self, and your future senshi self. They got like 5.
And what are these mini versions of themselves? Are these the
princesses?
Or what was
those were like their little guardians. Like they're all like little like like this is the
but
Sailor
they just
Scout.
Look like them. There were other people, for example. I think there were other people, but they just look like them. Like they're not exactly the same person.
Yeah.
Are they?
Wow, it gets. Are they? I don't know. Or is it like they're Sailor Scout formed like in a small mini like spirit form, you know? Like, because like that brings into question like Saturn. Saturn is a whole monster of like identity crisis.
That's true.
Like she's like Saturn,
And she talks
when
to
it,
herself. She's like,
she like,
I'm the senshi within you, but there's another
yeah,
person in you. This is
like,
so weird.
yeah, because she's like,
Because of
yeah, you want to
Mistress
talk about
Nine.
identity? Yes,
This is,
yes,
you're right, this is a real identity crisis.
like a real like, you want to talk identity crisis? Saturn, Hotaru, like Mistress Nine. It's just a mess. It's just a mess. Cause like it's like her, like I think in her case specifically, it gets really intense. Like it's like because she's got like two like not like I mean one seems like it's Saturn's not actually evil, but it seems like she's evil because she's like but like it's like she has like Hotaru is her like and then she's got her past princess self and then her like Saturn, it's like her senshi form is different because it's literally like a whole other person. Like when she turns into Saturn, it's like she's not Hotaru anymore. Like it's like she is Saturn, and like Saturn's like gotta get this job done.
Talk
like
about split personality.
Serious, yeah. Like she's like intense and like does not like mess around, and it's like she literally turns into another person versus like everybody else. Which is weird, almost weird. Like, why?
Why?
like,
it's also
why?
a coincidence somehow in this season. I mean, why did Mistress Nine have to inhabit her? And exactly her, not another person.
Yeah. Was it a really bad coincidence?
I mean, I don't think they knew that Sailor Saturn was Hotaru.
Yeah. I don't think so. I think so.
It was a really, really bad coincidence.
Yeah. Maybe the Mistress Nine, maybe she was like very much attracted to like this like maybe like she kind of like sensed that there was some sort of quote like unquote like darkness within Hotaru already.
Or
so like she was like yes. Yeah, like she maybe sensed that energy potentially, you know. That makes for like a really good fanfic. Like trying to like coming from a perspective like of Mistress Nine and like why like because obviously like if you ignore the fact that it was just because Hotaru was like dying and like it's a monster. She don't care if Hotaru is dying. She could have chose anybody else. Hotaru's body was like a mess. It was like a cyborg like mess. Like you'd think that like the villain would want like a strong body to choose, like, and not just because regardless of whether or not you want to take advantage of that person, you could have clearly inhabited any other like human out there, and like with you could have like inhabited like a athlete, like, but you chose the sickly.
I mean, the sick person doesn't have the strength to fight.
True.
Any inhabitation of some other person or creature.
True.
And I think a strong person could have been like, no, I'm fighting for my body, and my mental health is maybe so strong, or my mind is so strong, and I can fight this off. And a sick person or a weak person is probably sort of broken, not only physically but also mentally. So maybe it was easier to inhabit her.
That's true.
Or maybe it's just because the professor did something weird in his laboratory. And it was his fate.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's true. That's true. You'd think like, okay, yeah, like maybe she chose it because she was weak and she knew she could take over, like that too. Like, but I think it would make for a very interesting fanfic if it was maybe a combination of that, and also because she sensed that there was some sort of like hidden power underneath, you know. But little did she know that power would be what destroyed her. You know. That makes me want to ask you a question. Why do you think that Saturn, when Hotaru turns into Saturn, why do you think that her superhero alter ego is so different from who she is? Like, why she's basically a whole other person, but the other senshi don't have that kind of experience?
That's a good question. I really don't know what to answer to that. Like, you're right. She's really, really different. She's more confident. She's more calm. She's not so full of doubts, I think. And Hotaru is really... She's not weak, but... Yeah, she's physically weak, but not really mentally. Oh, it's hard to describe it.
She is, like, Hotaru is very strong mentally, because, I mean, that's how she ended up throwing Mistress Nine out of her body in the first place, you know? Yeah. She, like, really fought and was like, no, get out! Like, you know? But I think some of it came down to, like, love, too, not even just, like, mentally. Just how much love she had for, like, her family and, like, for Chibiusa and, like, the people, like, her friends. But, wow, it's getting deep.
Let's get back to the question that we actually wanted to answer. The question that when the characters revealed themselves to each other, and I was thinking about when Sailor Moon and Tuxedo Mask revealed their identities to each other, and there were really significant differences between the versions. For example, in the original anime, it took really long until they actually revealed to each other who they were. I think it was in an elevator or something.
Yeah, yeah.
In some weird
no
elevator.
fun getting toasted. For the original anime. I'm sorry, I love one-liners from, like, the original still. I can't. Like, but then Darien will know who I really am. Like, oh, well, no fun getting toasted. Like, and then she's like, Moon, present power.
And he was like, okay, what's happening? I was like, oh no, I didn't see this coming. Like, it's really weird that in the original anime, the reaction of Tuxedo Mask was like, he really didn't have any clue.
Yeah.
Like he was really taken aback. And in Crystal, he was like, oh, well, I knew that you were Sailor Moon.
Like, he just knew. Like,
no surprise here. I knew who you were. Like, he sensed it. I mean, it's really different. And the reason why they had to reveal their identities in the first anime was like, okay, it was an emergency. She had to transform. She didn't have a choice.
Yeah.
But in Crystal, was there any reason they had to reveal their identities, or did it just happen?
I think it just happened. Like, it was so much more casual.
Yeah.
Like, it was literally like, I think they cared less. Like, they were just like, I don't know. I almost... Yeah. Again, it comes down to trust. It seems like, to be honest, I feel like their relationship in Crystal / like the manga is different than what it was in the original anime. Like, to be honest, they like relationship's a little bit healthier in Crystal.
Yeah, I like it more in Crystal as well.
Yeah. Like, they support each other more and they, like, trust each other. Like, even, like, when nobody trusted, like, Tuxedo Mask, like, Usagi was like, no, like, I think he's a really good person. He keeps coming in and saving me and, like, stuff. And, like, she didn't even, like, she kind of was, like, annoyed by, like, Mamoru, but she also still kind of, like, blushed and, like, still kind of, like, was kind of infatuated, like, even though she didn't want to admit it. But, like, there was definitely just, like, it was just kind of like, hey, like, he, like, brought her, like, she, like, fainted, and he just, like, brought her home to his place, and just, like, was like, okay, yeah, sure, it's okay. And, like, and she was like, oh, like, and she took the mask and was like, wow. So, and I almost feel like that's, like, wait a second, like, held the mask up to his face, and it makes me, like, it's almost, like, kind of, like, it almost makes it show, like, their relationship's actually a lot stronger.
And more mature as well.
Yeah, more mature, because she's just, like, she just knew. Like, she was like, this is the person. Versus, like, in the original, she's like, what? What? And then Tuxedo Mask, I don't believe it.
The original English dub was so weird. I mean, I can't remember the German dub being so weird, like, with this intonation and so on. Maybe it was just the dubbing voice. We need to compare it to the Japanese version, because that's, like, the go-to version to judge.
But even still, I think she still had kind of, like, a, like, take back. Like, she had no idea. She's like, what? Like, this is him? Like, it wasn't quite to the extent of how it was in the original dub, but, like, she was still kind of like, what? What? Like, so, or, like, I don't know. So it's just, like, they, like, I don't know, I think in Crystal, they, like, in the manga, they just, like, trusted each other more, and they were, like, there was, like, a more mature, like, deeper connection. Like, they were like, oh, wow, like, I think I, like, know who this person is. Like, it was just interesting. Like, how did it happen in the live action?
Ooh, good question. It's been some time since I watched it. I think it took quite some time until they found out.
Yeah. I think the live action was a blend between how it happened in, like, the original anime and then Crystal. It seems like. It was kind of almost like a mix, you know? Because, like, it wasn't like she, like, immediately knew, but, like, it was, like it was kind of like a mix, because he already knew, because he saw her. He didn't, like, know. Like, she was, like, she, like, transformed, like, in a funhouse or something, and he just happened to see it.
Oh, okay.
And he was like, oh, okay, whoa. And then, like, a few episodes later, that's when, like, something happened, and, like, he said something similar to what, like, Tuxedo Mask said something similar to what Mamoru said. Like, he'd be like, you know, what are you doing? You. And she turns around, she goes, who are you calling an idiot?
Oh.
And, like,
I think every.
And then, like, yeah. And then she, like, takes them, and then she's like, wait a minute. And then she takes the mask and holds it up to his face. Kind of thing. And, like, it was something like that. And they played the music. It was like, because I can't sing Japanese, because I'll botch it. Yeah. But it was such a good scene. Oh, I have to go watch that. But, like, yeah. So, like, I don't know. It was, like, almost like a mix, because it was, like, she was, like, shocked at first, but then she almost, like, in it. And then she held the mask up to his face, and it was so romantic. Oh, so romantic. I love it. Yeah. But again, I think it was in a situation where it was more dire. Like, I think it was less because they trusted each other and more because in that situation it was, like, a dire situation. And, like, they realized. Yeah.
But I think it's interesting that in the different versions they handled it differently.
Yeah.
And it's not like, okay, this is exactly like in this version, and this is exactly like in this one. But they each had a different spin to it.
Yeah. I love that they did that. Like, I love that each version of Sailor Moon is, like, different. And, like, it's like the same story, but it's, like, the story told in, like, a different way. Like, almost like a different, like, it's just good. It's just good. It still gives you something to, like, enjoy. It's not watching the same thing over and over again.
That's true.
Yeah.
Shall we move on to the next question?
Yes.
That would be how the secret identity was hidden in the different versions. And I love this question because there's a running gag regarding what the Senshi look like in their civil version and in their superhero version. And they're like, okay, they look exactly the same. How can people not notice that they were the Senshi?
Yeah, like, I don't know. What are your thoughts on that one? I'm kind of, I don't know. Why do you think it was that they're, like, who they were? Because they look exactly the same. Like, some magical girl animes, they don't look like their magical girl counterpart. But in this version, it's, like, exactly the same, just a different outfit.
Yeah, I mean, mostly, not only in magical girl animes or series, but also in other superhero series, they have at least a mask. So you'll be like, okay, it takes some time to realize this is the same person. Yeah. But in Sailor Moon, they don't even wear masks. So
nope.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of like in Supergirl as well, because she doesn't wear a mask either, but she does wear glasses in her civil form, so maybe that's sort of her mask. But in Sailor Moon, I always explain it to myself as they have some sort of magical aura.
I agree with that.
And people just don't see what, or they just don't see that they are the same persons, like in their civil forms. I mean, in the live action version, it's actually done quite well because you actually see that their hair is changing and their outfit is changing, and they don't look exactly the same as in their Senshi form. Like, they all have black hair and so on. And when they transform, they change their hair color and their hairstyles and so on. So it's more realistic. But in the animes, it's kind of difficult to explain why people just don't recognize them. You just have to explain it with some magical aura or some weird thing that surrounds them that people just don't see it.
Yeah. That's the way I've looked at it the same kind of way, actually. Like, it's probably some sort of magical, that, like, some sort of, like, magic that helps so that people don't recognize it unless they actually see the information. Like, I agree with you about the live action. I love the live action because, like, it's like you literally see, like, this whole other identity. It's like, it's not obvious. And when it comes to the whole mask thing, there are 2 people that wear masks. Actually, 3, if you count the manga version. Which I'm still kind of really sad that they don't show it in Crystal, to be completely honest. I really wanted to see that moment where Usagi has a freaking mask, and she decides that she does not, like, I don't want this, like, throws the mask away. You're, like, the first superhero, like, Sailor V obviously wears a mask. Why did she throw away her mask? Like, I don't understand. But, like, so maybe that's why it was so much harder for them to figure out who Venus and Tuxedo Mask were, because they had masks. So, like, Sailor V,
Tuxedo Mask without a mask wouldn't be Tuxedo Mask, so...
True.
But he does lose his hat at some point.
He does.
Doesn't he?
But it's... Like, yeah, he does.
At the beginning, he's always, like, wearing his top hat, and at some point it gets lost.
Yep. At some point, it just, like, falls off. That's how you know things get serious, is when
Gone
he
with the
wind.
wind.
And things get real serious when he loses that mask. You know stuff's about to go down. Like, every time. Like... like, anytime he gets hurt, he only loses his mask when he gets hurt.
Mm.
Like,
that's true.
You know what I find interesting? He has a transformation in the original anime. He does not.
Doesn't he?
He does. They show his transformation in the original anime.
But in Crystal? Does he have one in Crystal?
No.
I don't think so. Huh.
So what does he do? Does he just, like... He's like, oh, shoot, bad guy, better go put my tuxedo on.
Just
what?
Doesn't he do that in the live action version? Like, actually pull on his tuxedo and so on?
I don't know.
Or does he have a transformation? See, I don't think that he has a transformation sequence in the live action version.
I don't know. I think I remember seeing both. I think I remember seeing that he had, like, a transformation. And, like, there's like a prequel episode, like, episode, like, 0. I don't know. It was like some sort of... or something like that. And you see him transform. But he still had some sort of transformation. I think he was like tuxedo power or something. I'm pretty sure. But yeah, I think I've also seen him just like throwing his tux... Hey, there's a bad guy. Better go get my tuxedo. Like, how? Like, what even made him... I don't know. Nobody's gonna recognize you in a tuxedo. Clearly. You want a secret identity, you gotta get a tuxedo.
The weird thing is that at the beginning of the original version and Crystal, he stands in front of the shop with a tuxedo, and Usagi is like, who wears a tuxedo in the middle of the day? Like, I mean, that's the point where you should realize, okay, he's actually pulling on his tuxedo. He's actually walking around like this. I mean, in Crystal, when he brings her to his apartment when she fainted, his tuxedo is actually lying on the sofa and so on. And she can actually see it. And I don't think that you can do that when you have to transform to get that tuxedo. So you actually pull it on. It's weird to think about that.
It is weird to think about. And then it makes me wonder, like, where are the Senshi's outfits? Like, are they just like in a little pocket universe when they transform?
I mean, basically, like, they are really similar to their school uniforms. So
true.
I mean, they're just the school uniforms, and they're just altering them.
But there's been times where, like, they were in their civilian outfit.
Yeah, that's true.
And...
That's weird. But do you remember that meme that is going around that shows Sailor Moon in her school uniform, and she's like, oh, there's something bad happening, I need to transform. And she transforms, and she just wears basically the same outfit with a shorter skirt. And oh, wow, you just changed into a shorter skirt.
I think I have seen that.
When I was looking for a quote for this episode, I saw that meme again, and I had to bring this up again.
Oh my gosh, this is a fun topic. There's like a lot of different routes you can take with identity. I could go on and on.
So after discussing all the questions we had regarding our topic today, we go on with our game. And you can, Luna explains how it works.
So we decided to think about what would happen if a couple of characters from the series were able to and decided to switch identities, at least for a day. And we thought the best swap would definitely be between Sailor Moon and Tuxedo Mask. So we each wanted to come up with 3 things that we think would happen if that were to occur. So, Michelle, I'm going to let you start since I feel like I've done a lot of talking.
Also, disclaimer, this might or might not be inspired by a certain episode of Miraculous.
Okay.
No spoilers here. Because
no
you haven't even watched it, so
nope.
I have to try not to spoil it for you, so... I have no notes, so...
We're just going on the fly here.
Bear with me. If Tuxedo Mask had Usagi's powers, this is weird. I mean, first I would think of their outfits that would change, but I don't think that Tuxedo Mask would run around with a skirt. So maybe he would have a suit or a tuxedo that just has different colors and not a mask anymore and not a top hat. But what could he wear instead of a tiara? That's kind of difficult to come up with. Maybe a bracelet, or
I know what
an amulet, or or I don't know. But yeah, that's the first thing that I would come up with, is the difference between their current outfit and their swapped outfit. So what would Sailor Moon wear? Probably a mask. For a change. And I don't know, maybe she would even wear a tuxedo.
That would be adorable.
That would be cute. And a top hat, maybe? I mean,
oh my gosh!
She could actually wear that. She could
she
wear
could
the whole
rock
outfit. Like, I don't think she would still wear boots, but maybe, I don't know, flats or high heels, like gray. I think they would go better with a suit than boots.
Yeah, I picture like flats. I picture flats would be good for her.
I guess Sailor Mars would love to wear flats for a change.
I know, she probably would.
She's
I don't know how
like,
she fights.
High heels.
I think that if they were to swap outfits, I feel like Tuxedo Mask look more like, have more of like a sailor suit, like a male sailor suit.
That's
Like if he was
true.
like, like or like in the Navy, and his tiara or like versus his top hat would be like the little sailor hat,
Oh,
and he could throw that.
no, I'm envisioning it.
Like an actual like
But I don't know.
sailor.
I don't know if I could take him seriously then.
I don't know either.
That would look so adorable.
I know. I'd be like, you look adorable. So maybe he'd have to look more like on like the Navy side of things, like a military, like take him seriously, like he was part of the Navy, like maybe like that. But then I started thinking about like, if I was thinking initially like, oh, but what would he do for a rose? But then I realized because he'd be like Sailor Moon-y type powers. So he would just be throwing his hat, but like if he was throwing a rose,
right.
you know what I mean? Like even that's gonna like change. Like we would.
Yeah, that's true. Then Usagi would throw a rose. Or,
Yeah.
I mean, in Crystal he doesn't throw a rose, so
True.
he would be
True.
like Tuxedo La Smoking Bomber.
I'm picturing Usagi
I mean-
using those powers, and it makes me laugh.
That would be so weird. Huh. And Tuxedo Mask would have the silver crystal instead.
Oh yeah. Whoa.
But wait, if they swap powers, wouldn't they also have to swap their team? I mean, then no, I don't know. How far
Yeah,
do we
whoa.
want to go? Like,
How far
much,
in like
how much do we want to swap?
yeah.
I mean,
would
yeah.
yeah, would Usagi even if she was Sailor Tuxedo?
But I mean, she has the silver crystal, which kind of represents the moon. And I mean, he's the Earth Prince. I don't think he would have the moon crystal. You know?
That's true.
I don't think they would swap their crystals. I mean, somehow, I think in the manga he has the golden
Earth. Yeah, he has
Earth
the
crystal.
Earth crystal.
And I don't think they would change that.
Or maybe they would, because maybe Usagi, like Sailor Moon, in like Tuxedo Mask's form, is actually just Sailor Earth. Think about it.
But wouldn't
No. Hold
wouldn't
on.
it just be a gender swap instead of
Maybe, but like think
Power
about it,
swap.
because the only reason there's no Sailor Earth is because Tuxedo Mask, like Prince Endymion, he's supposed to represent the Earth. There was Senshi can only be female, so like if there was a female person for Earth, it would be Sailor Earth, and then we wouldn't have him, and then he would be the Prince of the Moon instead.
he would be the
But then
princess of the moon?
So like, if you just like had an alternate reality, there wouldn't be a Sailor Moon. There would be a Sailor Earth, and then there'd be the Moon Prince.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But wouldn't that just be a gender swap instead of a identity swap?
maybe, but like, I mean, if she would, because the Sailor Crystal that he has, it can't be Sailor Crystal. He can't turn into a Scout. If he could turn into a Sailor Scout, like if he was a female, then there would be a Sailor Earth. There just straight up wouldn't be a Tuxedo Mask. Like Tuxedo Mask just wouldn't exist. Like we would have a
That's
Sailor
true.
Earth. Like what would Sailor Earth look like? So like if they were to swap crystals, she would be Sailor Earth, and then there wouldn't be a Sailor Moon. There wouldn't be a Sailor Scout. There'd be one on Earth, but then there'd just be like a prince just chilling up there.
A prince on the moon. Yeah.
The man in the moon.
But would he? But would he have powers then? I mean,
I think. But yeah, so it brings up a question of would it actually be a gender swap? Because like it just would be a whole other character. Like I don't even think I would consider it to be a gender swap. It would just be straight up like that would create a whole nother different character, a whole nother identity. Because like there is no Sailor Earth. Like he is not Sailor Earth. Like he's closest you can get because he's male. He's not Sailor Earth. We would have had a Sailor Earth if the golden crystal had been male versus a male. So it would have basically created a whole nother actual Senshi versus just somebody running around in a tuxedo.
That makes sense, though.
Alternate reality. But then, like, it's weird because it's like on the moon, Queen Serenity has like powers, but she's not a Senshi, or at least they never showed her as being a Senshi.
But then again, it's because of the crystal, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Neo Queen Serenity also has her stuff and can do stuff.
With the crystal, yeah.
And she doesn't transform anymore.
Whoa, this is like a whole nother topic.
So the power is just... I mean, the power is within the person or in the crystal, because the crystal is in the person. But...
Yeah.
Okay, that sounds weird.
I know what you're saying.
I mean, it is. I mean, they have their crystals within them, and their powers are within them. They don't have, like, for example, I don't know if listeners are annoyed if we always bring up Miraculous, but I mean, they don't have like a gem or something additional to their costumes that make them the hero, but they are the Senshi by themselves. Like, they don't need any additional things, do they? I mean, okay, maybe Sailor Moon can't transform without the crystal, but the crystal originally came from within her, didn't it? So
I think so,
it's
but
more
it can be
than any other transformation series.
But like their crystals can be taken from them though.
But
like Galaxy, like
wouldn't they die then?
They do, but
like in Stars.
Yeah, they would die. But so like they're kind of like, but they can be used afterward. Because otherwise, why would Galexia want them all?
Good question.
That's like a whole nother topic.
Yeah. Could another person use the crystal?
They tried to use the silver crystal.
Yeah.
And the golden crystal. Now Helenia tried to steal the golden crystal. But she can't use it as a Sailor Senshi, though.
Yeah. So I think it's much more complicated than, for example, in Miraculous, where you could change or swap your Miraculous and just transform into another hero, and everything else stays the same. Because in Sailor Moon, the powers are bound to the person, so it's kind of hard to swap the powers or swap their crystals or so on.
Interesting topic, though.
So, nice try with the game.
Food for thought. Food for thought.
But it's actually more complicated than we thought.
Yes, and as we've thought about this out loud, this is very complicated. Wow. This was a great topic.
It is. It was. It is, and it was.
There's like a lot we could still go into, but my gosh, we've run out of time. I would love to discuss it more in the comments, so please make sure to comment today. Yes. I want to discuss all of this because this could go on for days. Yes.
We could start a Twitter thread or something. Make people share your opinions.
Legit, though.
So to wrap this up, we chose another quote, just like in every other episode, and this time we chose a quote from the R movie, and it's the scene where the 5 girls and Chibiusa and the cats walk down a street, and Usagi says, "Being a cute superhero and a student is exhausting." And do you want to comment on this first?
Yeah, I mean, I can only imagine. I've never been in her, but being, trying to get through school and trying to save the world, that's a lot. That's a lot to do. I would be exhausted too. I get it. Having multiple identities has got to make everything very complicated and I mean, this was a complicated and confusing podcast, so I can't even imagine being in their shoes.
I agree. I mean, you have 2 identities or even more in Sailor Moon, and you have to kind of make this work. and not have your life as the one person influence your other life. It can be really complicated when you have two or more identities because you have to find a balance between them. And for example, when people wonder where you've been because you were out there running around in your Senshi form and people are looking for you and you have to come up with an explanation or somehow explain why you weren't there.
Sorry, Naru, I can't go to the crown. I have to go to the weekend.
I can't go to math class. I have to save the world.
I have to go get rid of this Yoma.
I mean, you already see this in other series. I mean, this is nothing new, but I mean, we saw in our discussion that in Sailor Moon it can be even more complicated because they don't only have two identities, but also their princess and prince form and so much more, and they kind of
the past life and the future life.
Kind of have to make this work.
They're alien creatures that come and possess them lives.
I mean,
yep.
I just realized that we didn't talk about the aspect that when they transform, the enemies just wait for them to be done. Like, when we as viewers think, oh, wow, this transformation takes like 30 seconds or more. And it kind of feels like the enemies are waiting for them to be done.
That's true.
But I think in reality, or in so-called reality, in the series, it's more like they transform and we see it. We see the transformation sequence that is so long, but in reality, in the series, it's like they just transform and then they're there.
Yeah. The way I look at it is I feel like when they transform, it's almost like they're going into like a little pocket universe, right? Mm-hmm. Like we're like an alternate universe for like a split second. Time goes differently. So like maybe on the enemies only see like a flash, right? Mm-hmm. Like there's like a little like glow or whatever. Mm-hmm. But like, you know, meanwhile they're like, you know, like in this separate like alternate reality right now where they're like actually doing the full on transformation. Because to be honest, sometimes I feel like that's where the powers come from. I mean, where the heck, when like Luna does her little flip, where the heck do all these little things, where do the pens come from? Where do roaches come from? I think that they come from some sort of little pocket side universe, and they just like come from this magical like something, just universe. Like,
let me just go transform in front of my green screen.
Yeah, basically. Hold on, guys.
But that reminds me of the scene where Venus de-transformed in front of the others in Crystal, and it was just like light happening, and all of a sudden she was Minako again. So maybe it just works like this, and
maybe something like that. I think they even have like a thing like that in like the S season where you see like Hakura de-transform, and there's just like flowers that fly around her, and she's just normal. We only ever see them de-transform like that, but we never see just like a flash and transform.
That's true.
But like I'm going to assume that it's probably just the opposite. We just get the actually see what's going on in the Pocket universe, one for fan service, and two, we're like going through the perspective of the actual Senshi. Stock footage. Because that's how I think in the manga that's they just have like a flash and then they're the character. So I'm going to think that that's how it actually looks like to the audience around them, and that to us or like to the Senshi, they're actually like they're in a moment where like time flows differently and flying around, transform. Yeah, that's my theory.
Yeah,
I'm sticking to it.
It sounds plausible though, because I mean, there's no way the enemies would wait.
There's no way.
Okay, how long is this gonna take?
All right. Especially when you take into account the fact that like, pulls like wands and brooches and things just like out of the midair, so they've got to be stored somewhere in like an alternate reality that she can pull from. Like that's like some sort of like magical like purse, like pocket purse, something. Just don't know. She pulls it from something. Don't know.
I mean, I don't want to make this conversation any longer than it actually is already. But isn't the arcade also in some sort of pocket universe, so maybe this kind of explains the
How
situation.
That's what I think. I think it's like Narnia, where like they go through like the little wardrobe. In this case, they go like behind the arcade machines, and then there they are. But like maybe not everybody else can see that.
Yeah.
Guardians can see that. Yep, I agree with that. I agree that that's probably also in its own separate little universe. I don't think that there's actually a secret layer physically underneath the arcade. Yeah.
I mean, people would notice.
People would notice.
Yeah.
They'd be like, who built this? They go like, it looks otherworldly down there. The stairs float. They float.
Yeah. Okay, I think we're done with this topic. No, we're not actually done, but we'll leave it at that.
Yes, I think we're gonna have to leave this topic.
Please comment a lot and let us know your thoughts, and yeah, maybe some theories, what you think. For example, when we talked about our identity swap, if that's actually possible, what do you think? And let us know.
Who would you like to see swap?
Yeah,
maybe Mars and Mercury, or maybe Mars and Pluto. What would that look like if they were able to swap their stellar crystals?
That's really random, but it would be interesting.
Exactly. I picked something totally random. Let's discuss it in the comments.
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah. All right. Including a Sailor Moon quote at the end of each episode here is something that we'd like to do going forward. So if you guys have a special or favorite Sailor Moon quote that you'd like to include in a future episode, feel free to let us know what that is down in the comments. Let us know what episode it's from and who's saying it, and we'd love to be able to include it.
And if you have any other suggestions, for example, if there's a certain aspect or topic that concerns Sailor Moon that you want us to talk about, then let us know also in the comments. If you enjoyed this podcast, then please give us a like. And if you want to stay up to date, you can follow my account and LunaTK's account, because the bloopers to each episode are going to be on her channel. Until next time, this is Michelle from Hot Panorama.
And I'm LunaTK. And we hope you found this podcast MOONIELICIOUS.
Talk to you soon.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.